Welcome, dear listeners, to another soul-stirring tale on Swoon Stories, where love is never simple, but always unforgettable. What would you do if the person you gave everything to walked back into your life with more power than ever? Tonight's story is a roller coaster of emotions, betrayal, and redemption. It's about the cost of love, and what happens when hearts are bought, sold, and reclaimed. Would you sacrifice your future for someone who forgot your name? Grab a cozy blanket, silence your notifications, and prepare your heart. May this story remind you, true love always finds its way back. The rain smelled like endings. Annalise stood outside the towering glass building, the resume in her trembling hands wrinkled by the downpour. Her heels sunk slightly into the pavement, the cold water kissing her ankles like cruel fingers. She was here to interview for a position she didn't want, but she needed the money. Not for herself. Never for herself. She had once sold her heart, figuratively, to help someone else. A man with dreams bigger than their shared reality. A man who had vanished after the bills were paid and the debt collector stopped calling. Now she was here, starting over. Alone. The elevator doors opened. She stepped in and froze. A man in a tailored navy suit stood at the far end, back turned, speaking in a hushed voice on his phone. But his profile, when he turned, was unmistakable. Him, the man she'd once loved, the man who vanished. Julian, she whispered involuntarily. He looked at her, confusion darkening his gaze. Then, nothing. No recognition. Like she was a stranger. Like their summer of sacrifice and stolen kisses had never happened. He doesn't remember me. And worse, his assistant stepped in just then. Mr. Wolfe, you're late for the department head interviews. Annalise's breath caught. He wasn't just her ex. He was the CEO, her new boss. Annalise nearly turned and walked away, but she needed this job. Her sister's medical bills were rising again, and the gig at the bookstore barely covered the rent. She swallowed the ache in her chest. During the interview, Julian barely looked at her file. "I don't hire people I know," he said coolly, not knowing the weight of those words. "You don't know me," she said, matching his chill with defiance. That made him pause. He looked at her then, really looked. Something flickered in his eyes. A memory? A ghost? But he said nothing. "You start Monday. You'll assist me directly. 60 hours a week, no distractions." He still doesn't remember. Or worse, he does, and he's pretending. By the end of her first week, Julian had assigned her to a high-profile merger, shadowing his every move, traveling, late-night meetings. The heat between them was undeniable, unspoken, thick as velvet, in the air, but he was distant. She, guarded. Until one night, after a long work event, they found themselves alone in a limousine. He poured 2 glasses of champagne, the city lights reflecting in his eyes. "I've been trying to place you," he said finally, voice low. Annalise's heart thundered. "But every time I look at you, all I feel is regret." She turned toward the window, blinking fast. "You should feel regret. You sold my love like it was currency." Annalise's mornings began before dawn. The scent of strong coffee and copy paper filled her rented flat, an olfactory reminder of the life she'd traded. "This is my penance," she thought, tying her hair back. At headquarters, Julian's office was a cathedral of glass and steel. He never noticed the trembling in her hands as she passed him reports. Yet late one night, while reviewing merger documents, she stumbled upon a charitable ledger hidden in Julian's signature. Funds redirected to orphanages. Her breath caught. He wasn't the ruthless businessman I believed. She replayed their limousine. Confession. He had kept his kindness buried deep beneath armor. Under the fluorescent glow, she placed a gentle finger on the page. A memory surfaced. The night she sold her vintage locket to pay Julian's medical bills. He'd scoffed at the gesture, insisting she keep it. And she had thought it indifference. He had known all along. He had refused her sacrifice not because he didn't care, but because he saw her worth beyond any price. Across town, Elise Moreau watched through polished glass. As Julian's former fiancé, now corporate rival, she nursed her own bitter vendetta. Elise's latest acquisition threatened Julian's empire. A biotech startup rumored to uncover a gene therapy that would dwarf his merger. She tapped her index finger against the black leather desk. On the table lay a folder, Annalise's private bank statements, proof she'd funneled money to Julian, then quietly disappeared from his life. Enough to suggest corporate espionage. Elise smiled. Let the chaos begin. Back in the executive suite, Julian summoned Annalise to his corner office. The city lights danced through the windows, painting them in fractured brilliance. "Annalise," he said, voice soft. "Why are you really here?" She inhaled, the faint perfume of his cologne mixing with lingering paper dust. "I work for my sister's health," she admitted. He watched her, those storm-gray eyes searching. Does he know? She wondered. Before he could respond, his phone buzzed. A cold email from Elise. "Meet me if you value your career, or else everyone will. Know how much you paid to get close to me." Julian's jaw clenched. He turned to Annalise, face ashen. "Explain this." He slid the printed email across. Her heart thundered. She is destroying us both. That evening, Annalise rushed to her sister's apartment. The smell of antiseptic and teddy bears met her. She cradled her sister's frail hand. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I never meant for this to happen." Her sister squeezed her hand, whispering words Annalise could barely hear. "You're my hero." Tears blurred her vision. Perhaps sacrifice isn't weakness. Elise escalated her game. At a late-night press gala, she released doctored photographs of Annalise handing Julian a sealed envelope behind closed doors. Evidence of bribery. Camera flashes immortalized Annalise's desperate expression. The media roared. Second plot. Twist. The envelope contained Julian's childhood family letters, stolen from his late mother's belongings. Elise framed Annalise as a manipulative spy, aiming to both ruin Julian's reputation and break Annalise's spirit. The next morning, Julian confronted Annalise in the boardroom. The assembled executives watched in silence. "Why did you betray me?" he asked, voice hollow. Annalise's world tilted. I never... He cut her off. "I'm calling the police." Her chest tightened. Every sacrifice, every sleepless night, all twisted into lies. The door clicked behind her as she was escorted away. The night air smelled of gasoline and rain. Annalise stepped out of the car, soaking wet, the echo of Elise's threat still ringing in her ears. She clutched Julian's mother's letters, her only proof of Julian's innocence. "I will clear his. Name, no matter the cost." A sleek black SUV roared around the corner, headlights blinding. Tires screamed as it swerved toward her. Crash. Metal bent. Glass shattered. Annalise flew backward, her body skidding across wet asphalt. This can't be happening. Julian arrived at the hospital in a blur of grief and fury. Machines beeped in sterile rooms, the scent of antiseptic thick in the air. He burst into the ICU. Annalise lay unconscious, face pale, chest rising in shallow rhythm. Her hand clutched a blood-stained envelope. Inside, the signed confession from Elise. The evidence to exonerate Annalise and expose Elise's scheme. Julian pressed it to his heart, tears burning his cheeks. She risked everything for me. And now... Elise watched a live news feed, sipping champagne. Annabelle Sterling, hero to orphanages, lies comatose after a hit and run. Meanwhile, the Wolf Corporation confirms her role in foiling corporate espionage. Elise laughed, raising her glass. The world thinks she's a martyr, but everything's mine now. In Julian's office, the board demanded explanations. His leadership faltered as rumors spread that the accident was connected to the Wolf merger, now tainted by scandal. Executives whispered she was his spy, his weakness. Julian stood before them, shoulders slumped, the weight of betrayal in their eyes. He looked up at the board. "I will clear her name," he vowed, voice cracking. They shook their heads. He's sacrificing the company for her. In the silent ICU, Julian held Annalise's hand, brushing a strand of hair from her forehead. "Come back to me," he whispered, voice trembling. Machines count down her heartbeat. Then, the monitor flatlined. Beep. 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 No. Julian's scream echoed through sterile corridors. The first rays of dawn filtered through the ICU blinds, painting Julian's face in pale gold. He refused to leave Annalise's side, clutching her hand as though she were the only tether to his fractured heart. "Please wake up," he thought, voice breaking. Suddenly the nurse slipped into the room, a folder in hand. "Mr. Wolf, there's someone here to see you." Julian's pulse quickened. He followed the nurse to the waiting area, where the lead investigator stood, eyes solemn. "We've reviewed the envelope Annalise carried," the investigator began. "The confession is genuine. Elise Moreau orchestrated the entire smear, and the hit and run was arranged by her corporate mercenaries." He placed a file on the glass table. Photographs of Elise meeting with a shadowy driver, bank transfers, and security camera footage. Julian flipped through, each page a hammer blow. "She tried to destroy you both," the investigator concluded. "But justice is on your side. She's going to hate me for dragging her back into this nightmare." Julian returned to Annalise's room just as it emptied of staff. He pressed the confession file to his lips. "I swear," he whispered, voice hoarse, "I will make this right." He wheeled her bed into a sunlit alcove filled with orchids, her favorite. The soft floral scent mingled with antiseptic, warm and hopeful. "You risked everything for me. Now it's my turn." With trembling hands, he removed the bedside monitor and whispered into her ear, "Annalise Sterling, you are the bravest woman I know. You sold your heart once to save me. Now let me be your strength." He kissed her forehead. Her fingers twitched. "Did you feel that?" A week later, the media blitz played in the boardroom. Elise Moreau's empire lay in ruins. Arrests for conspiracy, corporate espionage, and attempted murder. The court of public opinion had turned, praising Annalise's courage and Julian's unwavering faith. Elise's televised apology was a study in contrition, but no one believed her. Her fortune had evaporated with each damning headline. As Elise was led away by officers, she locked eyes with Annalise. No malice, just bitter regret. "I never knew love could be stronger than power," she murmured. That evening, Julian wheeled Annalise onto the rooftop garden of Wolf Tower. Lanterns swayed in the warm breeze, scattering soft light across the city skyline. Annalise's eyes fluttered open fully for the first time. She smiled, vulnerable and radiant. Julian took both her hands. "You believed in love when I couldn't. You sacrificed your future, your heart, to save me. That selfless act is what true love looks like. Love isn't a transaction," he said aloud. "It is the courage to give even when there's nothing left to give." Annalise closed her eyes, leaning into his embrace. her breath caught on a whispered promise. Did this story touch your heart? Share your favorite moment below. May we all learn that true love transcends all betrayal, power, and sacrifice.